to get to all of your calls. My radio show is on Newsmax the first hour. The show itself is 3 hours. Go to jlptalk.com, jlptalk.com, and I'll continue to take your calls, all right? Let me go to Syed, first-time caller out of Missouri. Syed, thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Amazing. Good morning, Reverend Jesse.
Good morning, sir. You can call me Jesse.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, Jesse, I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener, actually.
Appreciate
and just wanted to let you know that you've really helped me a lot, actually, overcome anger and helped me with issues with my mother. And actually, I was born Muslim, and I was raised in a very spiritual household, but we weren't actually very traditional. We were Sufi Muslims, which are very different from the mainstream Muslims. And we were actually taught growing up to overcome anger, believe it or not, but I never really knew how to do it in a pragmatic sense without meditation or prayer. And you really helped me by helping me have discussions with my mother. That really helped me a lot.
Right on.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And so one question I have for you about anger, and I've been reading the Bible. We're encouraged actually to read the Bible. In our understanding of Islam, the Bible is a holy book. We respect the book very much. We make sure that it's elevated, and we make sure that we take care of it just like we do the Quran. And when we read the book, we try to take lessons from it. And one thing I'm struggling with is the cleansing of the temple. In John, if you don't mind, I would like to read a little bit of John.
Real fast. We only have a few minutes left in this hour.
Okay. All right. And making a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. And so when Jesus essentially whipped out the money makers on Passover from the temple, it reminded me of like the Federal Reserve and the banking system that we're under today, and how maybe that there is something that we should be angry about, maybe not in our everyday lives, but in the injustices that we see, like how Jesus saw injustice.
Well, you shouldn't be. Jesus was never angry in the way that human beings are angry. Human beings who are angry are in a fallen state. They have fallen away from God, and they have the emotions of their father, the devil. Jesus had discernment. You could see evil, you could see injustice, and deal with it firmly, without being angry, because when you become angry, as you did with your mother, when you became angry with your mother, you became like your mother. Evil will possess you if you hate it. It takes over you. But if you don't hate it, it cannot take you over. And you still can be strong and deal with things in a forceful way. Hold on for me, Saeed. I got to take a break. We have 2 more hours to go. Go to jlptalk.com. Brett Winterbull is coming up next on Newsmax. Back in a moment, folks. Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Welcome to the second hour of the show today. It is Country and Western Tuesday. You can get involved by calling 888-775-3773, 888-77-JESSE. If you missed the first hour of the show today, be sure to podcast, talking about the soul of America, how we were losing it, and it's a fight for it, and that we cannot afford to allow the Democrats to take over come November or any other time in this country, because if we do, it's over. Democrats, right, or Republicans, the media, they all hate God. They really do. They hate men. They hate the children, especially unborn children, but they hate them all because they corrupt children. They mess with their minds. They turn them against their parents. And if we allow them to take over in November, it's over. It really is. And you have no one to blame but yourself. My biblical question for this week: can a job or career bring peace? Can a job or career bring peace? That's my biblical question. We have an update for you concerning the hurricane there in North Carolina, and also black people looting again at every opportunity. This is an emergency happening. Folks are leaving their businesses and homes, and while they're away, the black thing is a time to go shopping. It's a time to shop for them. We have that coming up for you. But I want to go back to Syed, a first-time caller Syed, a first-time caller out of Missouri, and he had a biblical question for me. Let's see here. Syed.
Yes.
So yes. You quoted the scripture where Jesus went into the temple and he threw out the money chambers and all that crap. And there's this notion that he was angry when he did that. And that idea is coming from people who are in a fallen state. They're in anger. Satan is their father, and they don't know that you can overcome anger. That's a spirit, and you cannot be a son or daughter of God and have anger. We have discernment, and we see it but don't hate it, because God knows that if we should hate it, then it will overtake us. Just like when you resented your mother overtook you. The spirit that was in her, or that is in her, is now in you until you forgave her. But if you discern it without hating it, it cannot overtake you.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just, when you read the scripture and you read other interpretations, most of the interpretations that I've read show that Jesus has the whip and that he has this sort of aggression.
Right.
And so you're saying that he's doing that aggression, but Jesus did that aggression in a state of peace, but not in a state of anger.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Okay. 100%.
Okay. And I think that's probably something that we should all aspire to.
Yes.
It's definitely something that I think we do have traditions of that too in my background, where you can have a fight, you can have a war, but it's a holy war, and it's something that you don't do out of your own pride, out of your own desires, your own anger. It's something you're doing for God, and that gives you peace. And it's very complicated.
It's only complicated to those who are in a fallen state. Once you forgive your mother and return to your father, it becomes quite clear. Because
so you think that there's nowhere in the Bible where there is a holy person who has anger?
Not if they believe in God, no.
So even in the Old Testament, where there was the killing of civilians, those were all done without anger.
Well, in the Holy Bible, I mean, in the Old Testament,
yeah,
most of the people did not believe in God. They believed in the Bible. They believed in the letter of the word, but not the spirit of it. That's why they were not.
Jesus came.
That's why they were not able to keep the commandments, because they didn't have the Spirit to guide them. Then Jesus came, and now we have the Spirit within us, and it's the Spirit that does that. But then there are those who were commanded by God to kill. Now they did it with the right spirit.
Yes, that makes perfect sense, actually. Because, I think one thing that helped me understand you, actually, I went through Jesuit university, and I went through a Jesuit high school. So I had a lot of discussions with the Jesuits about the Bible and about Jesus and the Old Testament, the New Testament. And I don't know if you know much about Thomas Aquinas, but what you say about anger and racism and isms being a spiritual battle and that they don't exist, it's actually really similar to what Thomas Aquinas says, that evil doesn't exist. It's actually just a lack of good. And so I see what you're saying, that if you don't fall into that state of actually believing in evil and think that it exists, then you'll see the good in even getting into a battle. You see there's goodness in all of that.
I don't know Thomas Aquinas, but I do know in the scriptures it tells us that our battle is a spiritual battle. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spirits and principalities and wickedness in high places. It's a spiritual thing. But in that fallen state, you're living in darkness, not realizing you can't see. And so you believe that it's physical, even though you hear the preacher say, oh, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And they say it, but they don't believe it because they don't see it. And so until you wake up, you won't see that it's spiritual. Everything we do, we are a spirit. So everything we deal with is spiritual.
No, I mean, that makes perfect sense. It's very similar to what a lot of the great saints, the Sufi saints or the Christian saints have said. They focus on the spirituality over existence. They actually think that this existence is temporary and our true existence is with the spirit and with God.
It's not enough to believe it. It's not enough to believe it because they said it. Until you truly come out of the darkness of your imagination, out of that fallen state, you don't know for sure that it's real. You believe it because someone said it, but that's not going to do you any good.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different preachers and so many different religions. They're all trying to tell you different things.
Yeah.
It's tough sometimes. They're trying to misguide you. Like you're saying, they're taking you into a fallen state, and you need to overcome that. So, yeah, I'm doing my best. And
how old are you, Syed?
I'm 33 years old.
So listen, you mentioned earlier that you, the Sunni, I believe you said, right?
Sufi, not Sunni.
Right.
No, I'm not Sunni.
The Sunnis are the ones that carry out those terrorist attacks, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
And the Sufi are the nice guys.
We're the ones who get killed by the Sunnis.
Oh, okay. Right. I got you now.
They destroy our shrines and they kill us. Yeah.
Amazing. But one thing that you said in the introduction is that you guys hold the Bible up in the same manner you hold the Quran. You said you hold it up and you worship the Bible, right?
Worship? I wouldn't say worship. We, I think the better word would be we respect it. And we hold it as divine. It has divinity. The Bible in itself has divinity. So, but we only worship God.
Right. Okay. I just want to get that clear because a lot of people worship the Bible and they believe in the Bible. And whatever you believe in control you, right? It controls you. You believe in it, it believes in you, and it controls you. And so if you believe in the Bible, you can never believe in God. We should only have faith in God. And the Bible is just a book of letters that inspired men wrote in order to inform us as to, hey, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. If you do that, that's going to happen. And they reminded us that the kingdom of heaven is within, and it's there we should go and find God and live from that, because we should only have faith in God, not in a book, not in human beings, not in material things, not in anything but God.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. In fact, in the Quran, it says this book is for those. This book is a book of guidance for those.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually tell people to follow the book, like follow it to a T. You have to find God within it. You have to find your guidance within it. It's not something that's a law. And even our word is not. It can be a form of idolatry, and that's what's happening with a lot of Muslims today. Is they're taking the words out and they're trying to create their own desires from those words. And I think that's what's happening with some of these preachers who say that Jesus got angry. I think they're taking the words out of the Bible and they're trying to show, oh, look, Jesus gets angry, so I can get angry too. So I see that. I see how people take words and they take to.
That's why I tell people when someone is speaking, whether it's a preacher or whomever, just let it go in one ear and out the other. Don't hold on to the words, because if you hold on to the words, you prevent the Holy Spirit within from revealing things to you. We're not supposed to let another human being teach us. Now, we can listen and learn, but don't hold on to the words of it, because you prevent the spirit of it from presenting itself and showing you and guiding you in the right way.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I've been listening to you, and you've been helping me a lot along the way. To be honest, I really appreciate what you do, and I've learned a lot by how you understand things. I really do think that you have a good understanding of religion and spirituality, and I haven't honestly seen anything on your formal education on this. Like I said, I've studied under Jesuits, and they go through. You know how they probably go through so much education. I don't know how you've reached these conclusions, and it's impressive. I'm very impressed.
Well, I reached them in the same way that you can see where I'm coming from, because the same God that is showing you from within where I'm coming from, that's the same one that's teaching me. He's within. I would not sit under preachers who go to school and just learn the Bible. That's a horrible mistake, because all it does is build the ego.
Yeah, I agree.
Syed, call me again, man. Very good conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Back in a moment, folks.